So we switched service order today. We didn't want to take more of your time on a Sunday, but we did want to go through some things that are extremely important for this house. Normally these things would be covered at maybe a leaders meeting, but we need to create a record that will give us a foundation to build on, and all of the churches that we oversee to build on, that is generationally sustainable. So I want to talk super practically. We're going to call this a family meeting. Is that okay? I'm going to be theological, I'm going to be structural, and I'm going to be personal. And this isn't your normal Sunday morning teaching. But if you need to stretch your legs, give them a few kicks, take some deep breaths, crack the things that need to crack. And when you're ready, have a seat and we'll continue. We are live streaming this. This is going to be available. At first, we weren't going to, but then we realized how many local churches probably need to hear something like this. So my intention today is to go over things where we can create a church the world can trust. Is that okay? Good, because you're kind of captive right now. Kind of captive right now. We need to create a church the world can trust. This isn't reactionary. I'm not teaching on these things because Sean Bowles, Bethel, Todd White, you name it, I'm not. And if you guys aren't familiar with those things, you can waste a ton of time on YouTube getting caught up. Or you can move forward. Okay, or you can move forward. I am thankful that the church is becoming something that can be trusted by the bride. I don't have a commentary on how all that went down. That's not the time to do that. But what I do have is a responsibility to make sure that we're building in a way where all of your great grandkids have somewhere to come and find life. Okay? So first, I want to show you who your family is. And I am going to bring some corrective language that I may have used in the past, that has floated around in the past. And I want to make sure that we're all on the same page. Legacy Church, beginning in about 2023, began to have an international metron. And when that began to happen, we started to have to learn how to lead a body that was not just in our own backyard. What we need to do today is rightly articulate what that looks like, how we are involved, and who our family is. We're continuing to grow globally. We're carrying a much different weight than we were before. And at the same time, the local church continues to be, and rightly so, the foundation that bears the pressure of that continued growth. So I want to talk about what that looks like, but I want to show you a few things first. Do we have slides? Okay, we have slides. I'll walk you through these, and then I'll share with you why we're going through these types of things. Just go in order. I'll follow them. Okay, so these are our YouTube impressions. And I've made a commitment to myself that I'm going to speak clearly, okay? And my commitment to speak clearly necessitates that we abolish the language between a local church and a global church. There is one church, and it's not legacy. They're sons of God. And no matter how you cut it, you will never find health. You will never find Christ in language that produces an us and them. Right. Ever. If our leadership starts to use that language, they'll be reminded. I want to tell you, before we get into this, a little bit about our ministry. We've been in ministry for 15 years. And most of you have only been here for the last 3 to 5. Our ministry, and I mean this as humbly as possible, has been a pattern of saying yes to the Father. That's it. We weren't qualified to have our 2 sons on our couch 15 years ago teaching them the Bible, and we're not qualified to teach millions of people now. But we will continue to tell the Father yes. We've never strategized, ever, to grow. We've never strategized for reach or influence. Just every time the Father opens the door, he gets our yes. So this ministry started on my couch. About 3 months after I got saved, my son demanded that I teach him the Bible. My youngest son forced me into salvation. I'm forever thankful. My oldest son forced me into ministry. Demanded it. I knew nothing. I had to work from Tuesday to Friday to learn something, to teach them on Monday night. I knew nothing. And if you asked them what I taught them back then, it would be clear that I knew nothing. But with zero planning, with zero marketing, with zero strategy, every teenager in my town gets saved. Everyone. And somehow, there are 40 teenagers gathered at my house every Monday night. No idea where they came from. In most cases, had no idea who they were. Their parents just started dropping them off from cities all around. It's like, hey, heard something's going on here. Then the mayor stops by. Tom Gardner, the mayor of Port Washington, comes up and he says, what's going on here? I'm like, not trafficking. Well, you got a bunch of kids here. What's going on? It's his Bible study. And he says, well, I kind of thought that, and the weather's about to break, so I want to give you the keys to town hall. So we started a church. He gave us the keys, and then we've got every Monday night, 35 to 45 kids packed in the mayor's office. No strategy, just a yes. And then we were asked by our senior pastor, hey, you want to be the official high school pastors at the church? So we just moved those 35 kids into a church, and now we were youth pastors. And then he presents us with the same type of opportunity, like, hey, this church is getting kind of full. You think you want to go start something? Oh, sure. Started something in Dover. We had 150 people at our first service. 149. Ask me how I remember. You don't forget those days, right? During this ministry, Shanda and I were bivocational until about 6 years ago. So 9 years of the ministry, I worked full-time for an insurance agency. When I say full-time, I mean full-time. I drove about 2,000 miles a week because my clients were trucking, construction, and mining, and you don't have one of those on every corner. I did property and casualty insurance for large equipment lists and big truck and trailer lists. So while putting up big numbers at the country's second largest agency, I'm also pastoring a church. And when the offer was made to us to come into ministry training, the organization that we were with demanded that you sell everything. So my wife and I put our house and all of its content on the market. And it sold in 3 days. Then the training center that we were supposed to go live in became unavailable. So we were homeless. Okay, sometimes you don't know where ministry starts. So my beloved mom back there had the second story of her house available. So I don't know if you've seen my kids. They're not small. They're not small. So me and Shanda shared a bedroom with a bed on the ground, no frame, no headboard, no nothing. Our living room was what are they called? A futon with a TV across the other, against the other wall. There was a hallway with a bathroom, and then in the next hallway, 2 giant teenage kids shared a bedroom. It's hard. And there's an 88-pound Doberman running around there, too. But we sold everything for this message. When I first came to the church, within 3 months, and this isn't shame, I just want you to know, like, I've never served a man. I've never served a church. I served my Father. I served the gospel, and we continue to give him our yes. A normal week for me for 2 years, I'm not exaggerating. It's not just like the one hardest week I had. You can ask my wife. A normal week for me for 2 years was playing guitar on Sunday morning, leading the youth group on Sunday night, teaching a youth Bible study on Monday night, attending adult Bible study on Wednesday night, leading a prayer meeting on Thursday night, playing drums on Saturday night, while working full-time and having 2 teenage kids and being married to a beautiful woman. And if you would have given me another opportunity to bear fruit in the gospel, I would have taken it. Everybody warned my pastor, slow him down, he's going to burn out. Watch me. There's nothing more important than life. There's nothing more important than make sure my grandkids have somewhere to be. There's nothing more important than sowing this message of the kingdom into my family. So we started a church in the YMCA. We were being housed by my mom. The Kent State Auditorium became available. So we were growing out of the Y. We moved to the Kent State Auditorium. And still working full-time and shepherding a growing church. What I'm trying to say is when you see this, when you see a global ministry, when you see owned real estate, when you see staff, and you don't see the 15 years that got us here, it's very easy to forget what price was paid. And this is what I'm not saying that you need to honor the price that was paid, but what I am saying is that you might need to pay one. We had one of our young ladies, she's our children's director at the time. She said, I want to sell my iPad so I can go to Honduras. I was like, her name's Alicia. I was like, Alicia, that's insanity. She's like, you and Shanda just sold everything you own. I'm like, okay, maybe. But it's odd to expect the same kind of sacrifice out of someone else, because when it's it's thoughtless for us. I was fired from my engineering job at Young Truck Sales. That was the last secular job I had. Before I called my wife, I was part of all of the local civic organizations. I was on the retention and expansion committee. I was part of the chamber. Like, I knew everybody. So I could have moved into a new job very easy. And I called my wife. I said, good news and bad news. I have resumes out already. It'll be no time, but I got fired today. They just don't need my position anymore. And my wife said, Tommy, don't you dare get back in that boat. So his church needs you. I'm like, honey, we got nothing. Like, we've got nothing. The church at the time, like, we were depositing like $90 to $110 a week offerings. She said, God's not going to take care of you because you're a good minister. He's going to take care of you because you're a son. And we have been taken care of since then. It's not always been glorious. It's not always been fun. It's not always been abundant, but we've always been taken care of. As a matter of fact, that week I was scheduled to speak at a church in Holmes County, and when I got out there, they had no idea what had just happened. This is days after. When I got out there, the guy that invited me was in the front row, and he was giggling. Like, he's a big dude, and he was giggling. And I'm like, what is going, like, am I supposed to preach right now? Worship's over, and you're just giggling. And he goes, no, the Lord just spoke to me. It's Bless Tommy night. And they start throwing money in a guitar case. Somebody took my car keys and drove it to their parents' store. They owned a food store in Holmes County. And they filled my backseat and trunk up with food. And what they didn't know was, one, I had been fired. I had no guarantee of future income. We were low on food. And I had just given my employer $1,000 to buy my company car because it was like almost dead. But I had nothing else. Like, it was our only car. So I bought my car, and the front end went out, like, on the drive home. So I'm like, okay, like, you said you're going to take care of me, and now everything's broke. So I get there, and a guy holds up keys to a BMW 5 Series and throws them in the guitar case. So within 3 days of us giving God our yes, I've got a car, I've got food, and I've got finances. And he has rewarded our yes with resources and increase ever since. Hasn't been easy. We've cried so much. We've bled so much. We've wondered if we were going to continue so many times. We need to get over. Like, there's a group of people right now that are fighting to make this household language so that our grandkids can rest in this household language. I want us to see the value of this. I want us to see, I want us to know, I don't know any other way to say this, but if you see Shanda and I walk in, I'm driving a 2018 Ram, which looks really nice. It's my favorite truck in the world. It's got 115,000 miles on it. We haven't always been able to pay the bills. And it hasn't been easy, and it hasn't been glorious. And we still make sure that the local church has everything she needs. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that to familiarize us with the formation of what is Legacy Church. But I'm also saying that you might be being called to something that we've walked out. And there might be generational implications to your sacrifice now. Because my kids and grandkids are sitting right there. They're fully on board with this message. Alex here more than I am. Alec, Chloe, and those two girls spend 40 to 60 hours in this building a week getting it ready for you. They've been part of this for 15 years. I can tell you it's worth it. So we've never, hear me, strategized for an international ministry. We've given God our yes from the beginning. And we will continue to give God our yes. Whatever that means, it can never tear away at the foundation of what this is. And this is the most important thing that we've ever set our hands to. So the language of local versus global, it's demon speak. It's demon speak. Anything that divides is demonic. It's not Christocentric. There's one church. We, in that one church, have an international metron that we take full responsibility for. And I want to show you how this works, okay? These are our YouTube numbers. Go back one. I want to use this one specifically. You see that 1 year, 2.48 million? How many of you know that's a bunch? It's a bunch. But can I ask you to look at this in the way that we look at it? 2.48 million faces. 2.48 million hearts bound in religion, bound in anxiety, bound in addiction, bound. We were given specific instructions to preach this gospel to the ends of the earth. And if something rises up inside of you that thinks that's a bad idea, I'm going to ask that you question the source of your information. I want to tell you, in that 2.48 million, I want to give you just an example, and I asked this morning for freedom to do this. How many of you know who Dr. Bobby Shane Brooks is? Dr. Bobby Shane Brooks is the apostolic liaison for our church network. He leads right beside me. He's like a brother to me. He loves Shanda and I like family, and he's one of the most trusted men in my life. Bobby Shane Brooks started out as one of those faces. Okay? Bobby Shane Brooks was in hell on earth. In July, his 16-year-old daughter, Sarah, who was as beautiful as the day is long and as gifted as you can possibly be, made the decision to take her own life. And Dr. Bobby Shane Brooks, who was already in ministry, he graduated from World Changers Academy. He has his doctorate. He's the founder of Positive ID Ministries. Dr. Bobby Shane Brooks was one of those YouTube views, and he watched a message called, "Who Told You That?" And he called me and he said, I want you to know that we weren't treated really well after this happened to us. People say some pretty off-the-wall things during times like that. And he said, I want you to know, while I was listening to your message, God spoke to me and said, who told you were a bad dad because your daughter made that decision? He was in hell, folks. And that message connected us. In the course of, what's it been, a year and a half? I think he reached out to us. Yeah, a year and a half. He's become one of the most trusted fathers in this house. He's not the only one. That 2.48 million, we don't celebrate that because it's a lot. We celebrate that because we're intentionally preaching a message of life that we want every single person in the world to hear. And when somebody is in the middle of their living hell and we reach them like this and change their life forever and set their family on a new path and bring somebody like that, this is Dr. Bobby Shane Brooks. The man is a powerhouse. His family is beautiful. Who knows? Who knows what would have happened had we not connected? We have 6 cameras in this room. To me, they're worth $100 million each now. You can't put a price on technology that saves somebody's life. Legacy Church is one church. Legacy Church is a metron in the scope of a universal church that God purchased with his own blood. And if our most recent yes was, yes, we will take care of your kids internationally, then it becomes part of our family. Bobby Shane Brooks is your brother. There is no distinction. There is no division. That's demon speak. And it has to go. Amen? Okay, next. Podcast downloads, which I think is probably our lowest. Is that right? As far as engagement, 3,500 downloads in the last 30 days. 10,000 in the last, 3,400 in the last 30 days. 10,090. 36,000 in the last 1 year. And 114,000 since we started. That's 12 years ago. But do you see what happened in 2025? 25% of our downloads over the course of 12 years were in the last 12 months. What's that mean? That means God's expanding your tent stakes. That means God is enlarging the place of your tent. We didn't do that. Here's my point. Those podcasts have been there for 12 years. Weekly. God breathes and things change. We didn't strategize. God breathes and things changed. Amen? Next. Okay, this is our top countries for viewing on YouTube. Australia, Canada, Denmark, Finland, India, Germany, US, South Africa, Portugal, Kenya, and Great Britain. Those aren't all of them. Those are just the top. You have family in those countries. And those countries consider you family. And those people from those countries regularly plan trips to come meet you. They plan trips to come meet you because we're one. Go back one. Viewed on every continent but Antarctica in the world. I think there's a good reason why we're not in Antarctica. We should be. Somebody's got to cross the wall and get through the Nephilim. Right. But every continent on earth is hearing what's going on in your family in New Philly. Next. So these are our students. We have students in Australia, Canada, Denmark, Finland, India, Germany, Great Britain, Kenya, Portugal, South Africa, and the US. Pretty remarkable, right? That's our academy students around the world. How insane is that? How crazy is it that I get emails from people in France? How crazy is it that I get emails from people that live on a boat? And they say, we're going to park at a harbor, and the only reason that we're coming stateside is to drive to come see you guys. It's happening. Is that it? Or do we have one more? I think that might be it. Is this good? That's it? Okay. So do you understand what I'm trying to say here? Now, can I put some terminology around this? There is no distinction. We're one family. But as one family, these three things have separate expressions and they have separate expectations, and it's really important that we understand that. We have three expressions of ministry that are Legacy Church. We have a school, we have a network, and we have a local church. What of those do you think is the foundation and the most important? Careful with your answer. But the reality is, if the local church is the hope of the world and we don't produce a blueprint that we want replicated, then the school and the network might as well not exist. The local church is the center of our ecosystem. The school and the network are the overflow of our cup. Do you know what the life circles are using as content? Sunday morning. Do you know how students find out about our school? Sunday morning. Do you know how people are inspired to join our network? Sunday morning. What's happening here is bigger than any of us. Do you know what's unique about those things? The teachings are recorded for the school. I Zoom with the students twice a month. Aside from that, it's pretty self-sustaining. It's about theology and formation, and that is what's taking place on that online platform. The network is more about peer leadership and belonging. It's a bunch of people doing the same thing, needing the same resources and needing fellowship. It takes very little of my time. You know what takes it all? The local church. Do you know why? It's the center of our ecosystem. It has to remain the center of our ecosystem. Our network and our school need to be able to look at New Philly and say, that is a church that the world can trust. That is a place that's centered around belonging and safety. You know, one of the worst things that I've done and the worst things that I've contended with is I've expected the same responses out of the local church that I got from students in the school. The school is 100% opt-in. You know what that means? They're there because they want to be. Yep. If we're doing our job, there should be people here on Sunday morning that are here because it's warm. Period. And they should encounter heaven when looking for warmth. There should be people, if we're doing our job, that are here because it's safe. And if we're doing our job, they should be able to come here hungover and not be judged. We have a 22,000 square foot building in the middle of New Philadelphia that we purchased for the intention of being the Mecca and hub for the New Creation movement. Meaning our family has a house. Not just New Philadelphia. We have the two largest AA meetings in the county meeting here every week. But do you know that's not what the school does? It doesn't make them any less family. It just makes them different. Right? I don't know if you're familiar with this kind of speak, but there's something that all of creation that is based off, that is in itself a relational trinity, that are equal in value in personhood, but they're different in their role and their authority. So just like there's a Father, Son, and a Holy Spirit in the triune God, there is a school, there is a network, and there's a local church in that being that is Legacy Church. They are co-equal in value. They are different and distinct in their role and the part they play. But they're one. Every pin on these maps is not a view, it's a person. Someone sitting in a living room, someone driving to work, someone wrestling with God, scripture, identity, shame, sickness, and hope. And the distance between this pulpit and them does not reduce our responsibility. If anything, it increases it. This building, this body, this altar is the center of the ecosystem. Everything else flows from here, not around it. These numbers don't excite me because they're big. They sober me because they're fragile. If 2.4 million impressions sounds impressive, remember, impressions don't get discipleship, accountability, or community. People do. That means there are not 2,000 or 2.4 million views that we're responsible for. There are 2.4 million people that we're now responsible for. And the more people that God brings to us digitally and in distance, the more we need a healthy, trustworthy local church. Because eventually, people don't need a sermon. They'll need a family. Some of the people watching us right now are on their deathbeds. Some of them are hiding abuse. Some of them are alone pastoring churches where no one understands them. And this message is what's giving them life. You know, but there have been multiple pastors that have been fired for their connection with us. They paid a price. They won't renounce it. Sometimes my advice would be that they should. But there are pastors being fired because they're listening to us. But they've found so much value that they've determined that the price is worth paying. The local body in New Philadelphia is not behind the scenes of something important. The local body in New Philadelphia is the heart of it. This house is not becoming famous, it's becoming faithful, and faithfulness is what God continues to entrust influence to. I've said it a million times. I don't want to say I almost love it, but I'm glad. I am so jealous of people with unearned confidence. I am so jealous of people with unearned confidence. But I can tell you from the depth of my soul that I have no idea what I'm doing. No clue. I have a Father that can. I have a Father that has. And about 7 years ago, I realized that God loves you more than he wants me to fail. So I trust him with my yes every single time. Hey, Tommy Miller from Tuskegee, Ohio, do you want an international ministry? Absolutely not. What if I help? Okay, I'm in. We okay so far? Legacy Church is one mission with three expressions. Legacy Church International is one mission expressed through three ministries. The local church is the center. The local church is not a side project. It is not the price we pay for global fruit. It is the center of the ecosystem. Can I tell you why I'm saying these things? I've been wrestling for a really long time. I've been wrestling with feedback. I've been wrestling with strategy. I've been wrestling with the fact that there are literally millions of people gathering to this message, and there are dozens gathering locally. So when that happens, you always want to ask the question, like, what's wrong? I'm just being transparent. Is that okay? What's wrong? So I ask my elders, I ask my board, I'm like, do I need to do some TED Talks? Do I need to reduce the revelation that we're preaching? I know. Thankfully, I came to that conclusion. They're like, absolutely not. It's the ecosystem. It's the ecosystem, but you need to build a house around the revelation that's about safety and belonging. Right? In the book of Acts, I'm going to talk about some personal stuff as we move forward. In the book of Acts, when they first started the church, do you know how many people were in the local church on day one? 3,000. Okay, so I'm going to say this plainly. If you prefer a local church, then you prefer something demonic. Excuse me. If you prefer a small church, right? There's never been a small church. 3,000 people on day one. So people come here and they're like, I went there, it was just too big. I'm like, well, hopefully you get sick of us when we have 93,000 people here listening to the message of life. Because the desire for a small church is consumer-driven. It's not the heart of the Father. It's consumer-driven. So day one, 3,000 people. This is Acts chapter 2. And then further in Acts chapter 2, it says, and the Lord added to the church daily those who were being saved. So 3,000 didn't last long. It says they gathered around the apostles' doctrines and teachings. So lo and behold, the center of their ecosystem was revelation. So we're not wrong. We're not off. But here's something that comes next. And then they gathered house to house. Okay? Hear me. These weren't house churches. These weren't house churches. House churches only existed when the threat of death and violence existed for meeting corporately. House churches are not God's idea. House churches are what people do when meeting publicly will get you killed. Okay, that's the context of the house church in the New Testament. People went house to house, ready? Breaking bread, having gladness and simplicity at heart and favor with God and men. They were friends. Okay, so there is a distinction, a separation between apostolic revelation and friendship. And if you come to a local church expecting to be friends with a local church, you will leave sadly disappointed. Sadly and sorely disappointed. We have to create a model that's sustainable for generations and generations and generations and generations. Trey Poston's church is going to explode in North Carolina. Bobby Shane's church is going to explode in Flowvilla. Our church, Legacy, Kentucky, is going to explode. And if the pressure on those pastors is to create one group that's all friends, they will die trying. Their responsibility is the apostles' doctrines and teachings. Then our responsibility is to have real relationships with real people that happen in the confines of intimate settings where you have the right and privilege to be friends with who you want to be friends with. Do you realize that? This is biblical model, right? So if this church grows to 3,000 in the next year, are you going to leave because it's too big? No. The church has to meet the right need. Why do you come here? You come here to be formed to the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ, not to have your emotional needs met, right? We can't do it. None of us, none of our leaders, none of our, even our pastoral ministry. Donna's responsibility is the care of your soul. That doesn't mean if you're feeling insecure because you don't have enough friends, she has to take you to dinner. She has to minister to you with a pastoral gifting. So we're responsible right now. And this isn't just our room. This is all of the pastors that we oversee. This is the thousands, millions of people that listen to us. The church needs to be an entity that the world can trust and needs to be built on expectations that don't cause people to leave in disappointment all the time. It has to be understood. Unmet expectation is the precursor to division, right? So if we're looking at a biblical model, if we say, we have three primary expressions of this ministry, then we need to know what this one's for, right? Revelation is the center of our ecosystem. To paraphrase a little bit, when the apostles were approached by the Hellenists, by the deacons, they said, hey, you missed the Hellenists in the daily distribution. There's multiple paraphrases of that. One of the paraphrases is, hey, you weren't at dinner. You weren't at dinner. The predominant paraphrase is, hey, you missed the Hellenists in the daily distribution. It's like, why didn't you meet their need? And their response was, that need is no business of ours. Not the end of the story. Appoint men from among yourselves and set them over this business. So that means that the need wasn't important. That doesn't mean that the need wasn't important. That means that the need needed alignment so it would be met. An apostolic ministry meeting personal need is a surefire way to kill your pastor in your church. We need to be a church that the world can trust. And I'm going to say this 1,000 times before we're done. If you want to know the central reason that ministries disappoint and fail is because they're based on a celebrity center. There's no such thing as Tommy Miller Ministries. I've been encouraged by our accountant to create one. I won't. We have New Creation Collective, a group. We have Legacy, a lineage. We don't have Tommy Miller Ministries. Even our organizations represent what we believe to be true. And the things that just took a collapse, Sean Bowles Ministries, Todd White Ministries, we cannot have a man be the central regulator for people's happiness and satisfaction. So while I would love to have the makings of a good cult leader, I do not. I cannot take that kind of pressure. Okay, are you guys still all okay? Okay, the local church is not a side project, it's the center of our ecosystem. Here's the purpose of the local church: worship, safety, pastoral care, discipleship, authentic community, sacrament, and presence. That's what this building, these people, the ones that we're seeing face to face, are supposed to be experiencing. If the local church weakens, everything else will collapse. The local church needs strength more now than it ever has. The world does not trust movements. The world needs to learn to trust God through healthy local churches. Let me say that this way. People should come here and not know that we have an international following. Our face and gaze should be so turned toward the need of this city that they should feel like the most important thing on earth. And that happens through apostles, prophets, pastors, teachers, and evangelists, not by a few people working too hard. That happens by the body of Christ embodying their maker and representing Christ to a lost and broken world, not by a few people working too hard. The school is about formation, teaching, theology, and training leaders. The school exists to serve the local church globally, never replace it. Teaching may be our front door, but community is the house people are meant to live in. And lastly, the network. The network is about authorization, accountability, covering, and shared language. And I'd like to say something maybe scandalous here. Our network, we've had the opportunity recently to test it, to see if it prevents us from losing trust, and our system works. Some of the pastors that are being called out now don't have accountability, and because they don't have accountability, their actions were allowed to go on for far too long. When somebody comes under our ordination, they get our resource, they get our family, they get our love, but they also get our voice. And the moment they start to step out of line or they start to do something that isn't conducive to the ever-increasing calling that's on their life, we say something. If they don't submit to our counsel and it looks like it's going to hurt people or churches, we revoke their ordination. And when we revoke their ordination, we let the right people know that we no longer endorse their ministry, and we do it in short order. We do it in short order so that the world can trust us. You trusted us when we endorsed them. If we no longer trust them, if we no longer endorse them, you should know about it. Good? Okay. The local church. We still okay? This is taking longer than I thought it would. Are you guys okay? Nobody's mad? I didn't think so. The local church cannot be built at convenience. The local church needs to be built as an inheritance to future generations. The language that we use, we've talked about this extensively. I really don't think we have this problem anymore, but one of the biggest issues that we ourselves as the church caused is we caused membership in a local church and serving in a local church to be consumer driven. And we did it subtly by the language that we use. we would say like, hey, welcome to the church. We really want you to get plugged in. This is Legacy Church, the coolest place that's ever been. Everybody's happy. Everybody's excited. That's not true. Not at all. There's so many Sundays that I don't want to come. And then whenever somebody says, hey, I have to step out of ministry, sometimes I don't want to be there anymore. I'm like, I had no idea that was a prerequisite. I'd have been disqualified a long time ago. Flatheads start biting in the spring. Saturday night's usually pretty good, and I don't know if you've ever tried to preach 3 messages in one morning after staying up till 4 a.m. It's not good. So there are some times where I'd rather be somewhere else, but the price paid's worth it. The price paid's worth it. So when we say, hey, what do you want to do? That's a dumb question. We should say, what do you want to see? Right? Because if I said, hey, we need children's workers, how many of you love wiping butts? If any of you said yes, I'd call the authorities. Okay? How many of you love screaming kids? How many of you love kids with behavioral issues? All of you do. But what do you really love? You love to see kids loved. You love to see kids accepted. You love to be part of a formative time of someone's life when they grow up and they hit hard times. They remember what their Sunday school teacher taught them about overcoming adversity. That's what you love. So we have to make sure that we're not selling this as something consumer-driven. You guys good? So ask yourself now, what do you want to see? Not what do you want to do? That's consumer-driven. What do you want to see is sacrifice-driven. The early church, they did not have, they did not have the convenience of serving by preference. Usually what they chose either ended their life or made it extremely difficult to live in spite of the persecution that they were enduring. So ministry by convenience isn't part of our first century model. Good? We are preparing a ministry as an inheritance. We have to think about children and grandchildren. We have to think about people that have never heard this message. We have to think about leaders that don't know that they're leaders yet. We're stewards of a message, not consumers. One generation from now, nobody will care how big our reach was if the local body wasn't a safe and stable and trustworthy place to be. Good? Okay. It only gets worse. I'm just kidding. I'm really excited about this, actually. I think this clarity helps. Here's the tension. The tension is between creating something that's generational and creating something that's popular. The popular version of this gospel is over. Okay? 8 years ago when we started the school, I could only teach this to a group of people that were locked in the fellowship hall that wouldn't tell anyone else because we were literally scared that nobody would ever come back. Now, there are millions of people enjoying what I was afraid to teach over there. I can freely teach up here on a Sunday morning. So that means that the shock and awe of the patristic gospel is over. People are not going to follow your ministry anymore because you're shocking. People want to be part of your family because you're now safe. Okay? An allegiance to a family is different than a consumer drive to a message or a YouTube channel. So with that said, these are the things that are really hard for me to say. You ready? I can't be the center. The message has to be the center. Unmet expectation is the prerequisite to division and disappointment. So, if somebody becomes a student to get close to me, they'll be disappointed. If somebody comes into the network to get close to me, they'll be disappointed. If somebody comes to this church because I need to inject relational energy into everybody, they'll be disappointed. It's impossible. You know, there was the thing that I like most about the Acts moment when the people came and complained to the apostles. They said they missed the Hellenists in the daily distribution. And they said, actually supposed to be giving ourselves continually to the Word of God and prayer, and you can appoint really good and responsible men over those things so that they get done. It says, this saying pleased all the people. So it was almost when expectations were adjusted, everybody's light bulb went off and said, yeah, we don't need that guy. Right? It was good news for everybody to not have to wait on one person to shoulder the relational and emotional calibration of the whole movement. Can't happen. We come here, and my responsibility, biblical responsibility, is to create culture, lead leaders, and establish doctrine. If you come here, I guarantee you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do it better than anyone else in the world is. If you come here with another expectation of me, I will disappoint you sorely. I will disappoint you severely. And I hate to see your heart hurt. However, if I chase, bend, try to accommodate all of those disappointments, I will not make it. I will not make it. The fivefold ministry, as it emerges, is becoming more clear. And the problem has always been that pastoral pressures were placed on apostolic offices and then burned them out immediately. I can be faithful. I can be accessible. I can be loving. But I can't always personally be there for everyone. And that should make you very happy. Because there are dozens of qualified people sitting right beside you that you can go house to house with and break bread and have gladness and favor and fun, and I don't have to be invited. And I don't have to go there to inject my approval or emotional energy in it to make it valid. Can I keep talking about this because I already feel like I've crossed the line? Everything that we've ever done to promote fellowship has failed with the audible response of Tommy and Shanda weren't there. And I would respond to that with, we're not that great. You have a really good time without us. But here's what the body needs. Okay, honor in the body is respecting what someone carries. And I am not going to expect you to teach 220 times this year. But I will. Okay? I will. I might not. Although we want to. Please don't hear this the wrong way. I have to be faithful to what God is asking me to do as the apostolic voice of this church. Even, and I want you to hear this, even if my wife and I cry when we can't come. It's not ever a matter of preference. It's a matter of faithfulness. But there will never be a moment that we don't want that kind of friendship. But there will never be a moment where this church can thrive when individual connection with us or leaders can be expected without also being disappointed. Good? Okay. A healthy church is not built by proximity. It's built on shared mission and mutual service. Is this good? It crushes me, to be honest with you. It crushes me to see what we pour into somebody or what we pour into the local church or whatever it might be, to hear often that it's not enough. It's crushing. And it's not crushing because I'm offended. It's crushing because I want to do more. I want to do all those things. But if we want to be healthy, then the church needs to be a body. Good so far? Okay. So, almost done. Do you understand that there's a difference between serving and serving with? So Jesus put his disciples in submission to him, right? Jesus used terms like subordinate, or words that meant subordinate. And when Jesus spoke in Matthew 28, it's referred to as the Great Commission. So there is something unhealthy that happens when you think you're serving a man. Because Jesus didn't tell you to serve him. He put you on a mission with him. And he gave you a helper. And he was ordained and you are subordained. He was on mission, you are in submission. When you're serving with someone, you're serving with them. I happen to be the apostolic voice of this movement. No matter what you happen to be, you're not serving me. It becomes really dangerous if you think you are. It becomes really dangerous if I think I am. I've had multiple spiritual fathers. How about I say this? I've had multiple spiritual overseers. And my service to the Father doesn't end when one of them makes a move or one of them is no longer there. I was serving with them. And I don't stop serving when they're no longer serving. The emotional return on your service has to belong to the Father. You guys know who Damon Thompson is? I used to think he was a little too rough. But I also think maybe he's just further down the road in establishing a local movement than we might have been at the time. People travel here often, and a lot of people moved to Mobile. And for a while, nearly every week, he said, if you are moving here for my attention, I can't give it to you. So if you're moving here to be part of this and part of the message, come on, bring it. But if you're moving here for proximity to me, it's not that I don't want you here, it's that I can't do it. Is this healthy? Covenant in this house is not transactional. It's not I serve, therefore I am owed. It is I belong to God, therefore I give. I'm called to teach, to guard doctrine, to build structure, and to raise leaders. And I promise you from the depth of my soul, as my wife is my witness, that it is the most serious task in my life. I've woken up every day for 15 days with it being the first thing on my mind. And in order for us to build a structure that will last for generations, we have to have the right expectations of the structure itself. Good? We're an apostolic family. We gather around this revelation, submit to the Father. We labor with one another as co-equals. Family is who we are. Structure is how we get things done. And right now, the local church is heavy laden and needs more help. So I will make the ask. If you see now what we're a part of, if you see the droves of people that are gathering to this message, not this person, not this building, not this leadership team, to this message, and you recognize in order for somebody to find rest, some people have to work. You guys ever been to a salon? My wife goes to the head shop in Dover. Highly recommend. But there's usually 3 people working their tail off while my wife's sitting there. That's the local church, right? People should be able to come here and find safety and belonging. People should be able to come here and find rest. But that usually means that there are people here laying down their lives so they can find that rest in a community that loves them, love shown through giving and sacrifice. Amen? All right, I would like to show you just a few things before we move on. I want to introduce you to the leaders here. Something we haven't done in a very long time. I'll do it quickly, but I also want to tell you a little bit about what they do, and maybe if your heart meets their heart in this, you can become part of it. By the way, this isn't a volunteer fair. This was a recalibration for a healthy 2026 and beyond, and an apostolic adjustment that allows the church, not New Philly, the church, to have a pattern and a blueprint that can sustain cities. Healthy local churches that become our responsibility. So, first I want to introduce you to three people that aren't here. Dr. Bobby Shane Brooks is the apostolic liaison for the Legacy Network. The Legacy Network is the entity within Legacy International that authorizes resources and does life with the pastors and leaders that are carrying this message. Those people come into the network through ordination. And once they become part of this, they're not becoming part of a message, they're becoming part of a family, and they're asking for accountability. One of the things we're not responsible for, Paul said it in Corinthians, he said, my metron does not include them, but my metron specifically includes you, so I have to give you honest feedback. So if one of our pastors is in trouble, they're living a life that's not conducive to an ever-increasing kingdom, they are our responsibility to speak into their lives and bring them back into alignment. Dr. Bobby Shane Brooks is the guy that I told you about at the beginning. He was a face in the 2.48 million people in those YouTube views, and he was in a living hell, and now he's one of the most instrumental men in this ministry globally. So those views aren't views, they're people. Second, we have the team of Sherney Best and Jackie Morey. Sherney and Jackie oversee our Life Circle ministry. Sherney is in Eagle, Idaho. Miss Jackie is in Washington. And they are best friends. They have been for years and years and years. And Life Circles are our solution to people needing community under this message without local leadership. It is also our solution to authentic local relationships. So if you are not in or leading a legacy life group, then you might be missing the relational component of your faith walk. Your expectation might be misplaced on thinking that you'll get it here on Sunday morning, and you will, but the reality of shaking enough hands on Sunday morning to satisfy your relational need is probably very low. So joining a life circle gives you something to gather around and people to grow with. The leaders of those life circle leaders are Jackie and Sherney, and those ladies are absolutely wonderful. If I could have Rick and Lisa Truman come up, please. Jen Porter. Kristen McCauley, since you're sitting right beside her. Oh, you were just in a different order. I wasn't not going to call you up. Dr. Ricky Miller. Alec and Chloe Alderman. Neil Stoneman. Neil, would you do me a tremendous favor on your way up and grab a throne for Pastor Donna, as we call her up as well? Royalty deserves. Pastor Donna, could we have you join us? Okay, our church is structured in such a way where I have a team of people that are my direct reports, and these people are not representatives of their ministry. How many of you know government solutions that are centered around houses of representatives usually fail? We are a family that take responsibility for certain areas. Those things are in pencil. They could change at any time, but they're not coming to a leadership meeting representing something and fighting for attention or budget or whatever. We're leading a movement together. These people have 5 responsibilities: recruit, train, delegate, evaluate, and decide. That means the growth of all of their ministries is fully in their hands. I don't oversee them. They don't need to call me for permission. I'm there as a resource. I'm not there as a manager. and they all do an amazing job. Coincidentally, all of them are working way too hard. All of them are working way too hard. I have a mentor that hired a consulting firm to come on his staff incognito for a year. They have 73 full-time ministry employees. And they said that the issue that they had in their staff, this was their findings after a year, the issue that they had with their staff is they give the appearance that everything's taken care of. And when you give the appearance that everything's taken care of, there's very little observation of opportunity to get involved. So his counsel to that pastor was, you need to be vocal when there's a need present. And right now, we've reestablished the function and the focus of the local church. And we're here to tell you that these folks would love to have your help if the shoe fits. So let me tell you a little bit about what they do. Neil is our ordained prophet. Neil leads our ministry team and our intercession team. He has a network of global intercessors that pray over Legacy Church as a movement. They're responsible for the ministry that takes place inside a service. They oversee our prophetic and healing people, and they're responsible for strategy and structure. Neil's got a team that reports to him. I do want to say this. This is kind of, it almost feels backhanded, but we need help. These people will also go to great lengths to make sure that you're a good fit and it doesn't end in disappointment for you. So Pastor Donna, we ordained her as a pastor, a authentic fivefold pastor. Her responsibility is the care of people, soul care. People going through tough things. They get cards, they get visits in the hospital. They get walked through things when things aren't right. Sometimes people are waiting on healing and waiting on breakthrough, and the pastoral gift is the one that's there to make sure that they stay comfortable and they stay loved. She does a tremendous job, and she oversees a team of those people. If you're interested in being part of something like that, Pastor Donna needs help. Rick and Lisa Truman are the directors of the Legacy Academy of Kingdom Living. Under their leadership, the academy has doubled in size every year. Every year. They are a mother and father to 250 global students this year. And they keep all of these high-capacity ducklings walking in the right direction. It's a tremendous workload. It's a tremendous feat, and they're deeply and desperately loved for it. They can be more clear about the kind of help that they need. I think we're kind of over the hump of all of the administrative and onboarding things that took place this year. But if you're interested, please chat with them. Jen Porter. Jen Porter is our director of media and communications, which is a pretty bogus title because she does dang near everything. But that means if you hear it, if you see it, if you read it, probably came through her hands first. She also has massive workload in addition to that. She's constantly asking for accountability to keep her out of the weeds because she has some really big projects going. She also is the editor responsible for making sure that our books come out. Unveiled came through S. Renee Press, and Jen Porter was the one that put the Heaven's Magic on that manuscript, and she's got a few in her hands right now that are coming soon. I know she's actively looking for clippers, video clippers. If you sit here and you're like, wow, that was the best part of that sermon, like, make a note, and we'll give you the technology to be able to make clips of those videos so that we can put content out in short-form, bite-sized pieces so that people don't necessarily have to sit down and listen to an entire sermon. Kristen McCauley. Kristen McCauley is our children's director. Kristen McCauley has all the qualifications. I say that because I'm embarrassed that I can't list them all. It's a lot of letters, but she has all of the state credentialing as a counselor with a specified discipline in children. And she came into the children's church at a very difficult time. And in that very difficult time, she kept her head down, she kept her emotions regulated, and she built a team that's doing a fantastic job. They need more help. And as you can imagine, our children are our greatest treasure. It's not painfully easy to get into children's church. However, if you have a heart to see kids loved well, Kristen would love to hear from you. Dr. Ricky is, I believe, our most recent addition, and we're having trouble with title for this guy. Director of Support and Communication was most recent, or Support and Culture was most recent, and then Alec, I think, recruited him for something else, so we'll get back to you with a title. But Dr. Ricky has a practice out of North Canton, but he's also here in ministry, overseeing how we do life here at Legacy Church. There will be more of an announcement about his role shortly, because the team itself hasn't been made public yet. Almost last, Alec and Chloe Alderman. They together serve as our Director of Operations, which again is a really minuscule title compared to what they actually do. Alec, Chloe, and their 2 girls spend, depending on the week, 30 minimum, 60 maximum hours in this building a week. They are 100% volunteer. They synergize one another's passions like no one I've ever seen aside from my wife and I. If Alec's on a ladder, Chloe's handing him the tools. If Chloe's making coffee, Alec's running to get the beans. These guys are one of the most remarkable and heavenly teams that I've ever seen. And they essentially created a space for themselves. I had no idea they were coming. I had no idea what they were doing. All of a sudden, we had 40 hours worth of work done, and just things started to get better. So they oversee the greeting team, the coffee team, the outdoor maintenance team, the indoor maintenance team, the security team, the giving team, all of the things that are kind of operate in this tangible function, but they need help. And last but not least, I would like to welcome Pastor Shanda. This lovely lady has been by my side for 15 years. If I'm there, she's there. If I'm doing it, she's doing it. And her voice and gift have been extremely valued and paramount to the development and increase of this ministry. She also serves as our worship director. And she oversees the vision of the AV booth. She oversees directly the singers and musicians. And in recent weeks, she's had a big move on her team. As you know, we have 2 young ladies that are recently engaged that have been faithful to ministry for years and years and years on end. And they are taking a step back from their vocal ministries to enjoy their newfound engagement. The Firebaugh family feels that they are to minister to their city, which is wonderful, and they're heading to Bowerston to exclusively focus on bringing heaven to earth there. And Miss Becca, who we owe months and years of wonderful piano playing to, has also decided that she's going to step away to pay attention to a new season in her life. So you will see a much different looking worship team in the weeks to come. Probably a good time to announce that we're going to welcome Pastor Brad Olson onto the team. And if you carry a worship-centric musical gift, and you would like to audition for the worship team that is currently being built and in its strategic phase, please come see Pastor Shanda. I don't know, like we're in this mode of transparency, so let me say this. The church has to have input for it to have output. The church has massive expectations. So there's this place in Acts where it says that and each one gave to anyone who had need, so no one had need of anything, right? We really expect that of the church, and it's fantastic. The line before that says everybody sold everything they had and gave it to the apostles, right? So the church doesn't generate money in ministry. The church stewards money in ministry. So, do we want to serve the needs of New Philadelphia to the absolute, most heavenly expression? Absolutely. But I can tell you that every one of these people is overworked at the moment. And if you have a gift to offer the kingdom, I'm here to tell you, don't ask yourself what you want to do. Ask yourself what you'd like to see, and then pay the price to see it come about. So, I kept you for a very long time. I thank you so much for allowing the transparency. And I'm going to ask you from the depth of my soul, to fall in love with this city again, to fall in love with this local church again, and to recognize that you're part of a family that spans every reachable continent in the world. And we're part of something that I don't know if generations have ever seen. But thank you. We love you all so very much. And I can't thank you enough for the time and attention that you're willing to spend with us this morning. Amen? All right. I love you guys. I will talk to you very soon. Had my foot up there way too long. It's asleep.